Welcome to the Carey Nieuwhof Leadership Podcast on YouTube. My name is Carey Nieuwhof, and my goal is to help you lead like never before. So what I do every week is I sit down with world-class leaders and church leaders, business leaders, and I talk to them about what made them who they are and try to have the conversation with them that you would have if you got to sit down for lunch with them or have dinner with them or really got to spend some time with them. So we go into the backstory and we explore what made them who they are and some of the principles they've learned along the way. So if you enjoy this episode, I would love for you to like it, to subscribe, and also to share it with your friends. And in the meantime, here's today's episode. Well, Michelle, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
It's so good to finally get on. I've seen some of your past guests, and I'm like, wow.
We have a good time here.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, now we have Michelle Williams. So there you go.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, your story, Michelle, is obviously you're an actor and an artist and a performer in your own right, but did it start with Destiny's Child? Is that how you was that your first big break?
No, prior to Destiny's Child, I was singing background for an R&B phenomenon. Her name is Monica. She was at the age of 15, this superstar in the world of R&B. But prior to Monica, I was a praise and worship leader in the choir at church. I was in 2 gospel groups, not thinking that I would do music professionally because no one in my family does music professionally. There are a few organists in my family, but they just play at the church, to let their gift be used. But as far as anything else professionally, no, I'm like the first person that took a chance to kind of not finish college because everyone in my college is degreed and doing well. And I was like, well, I'll go to college too. There's doctors in my family. My mom's a registered nurse. So I was like, well, it looks like it's working out for everybody. So I just never thought of pursuing music professionally because it was not encouraged, nor were you steered in the direction of music. Because my mother felt music, what does she call it? Because my brother is a phenomenal musician and producer, and she referred to doing music as a pipe dream. I don't know what that means. I guess we should Google it.
Yeah, you know what? If I'm right, it means don't bet the future on it, Michelle. It's not going to work out for you.
I think
that's what it
her
means.
say pipe dream. And so here I am. I told my brother, I prayed about it. I prayed about when I got the phone call to meet with the ladies of Destiny's Child, Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland. And I prayed about it. I felt peace about going. And that's what happened.
How old were you when you had that conversation with Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland?
Let's see. Was I maybe 20?
Yeah, pretty young, right?
Yeah. I think I was about
really
20 years
young.
old. Mm-hmm.
So how did they find you? How did that happen? How did Destiny's Child come to be?
Well, Destiny's Child was an already established group. They had original members and they were on their way. And unfortunately, there were some things that happened within the group. And 2 out of the 4 original founding members left the group.
Okay.
And I was singing background for Monica at the time, but Destiny's Child's choreographer happened to be a dancer with Monica as well. So when Destiny's Child was kind of scouting for members, she told them about me. And I tell this story about how when you just keep your head down and you do your job, someone will call your name. Like, don't try to get out here prematurely. Be nice to people. Show up to work on time. Even if you aren't like the best, people will remember how you treat them. Like, do you come to work knowing your melodies? Do you come to work knowing your part? Are you on time? First and foremost. So I tell young people that all the time. You know, I believe one of the reasons why my name was mentioned in a pool of, it could have been mentioned in a pool of other more talented people. I have to say, I think work ethic, how you treat people. Now, I haven't been perfect, but I just tell young people all the time, I'd pick somebody less talented, but somebody that's pliable over somebody that's so gifted but arrogant and thinks they know everything.
So you're 20 years old. You're sitting down with Beyoncé. Now, had Destiny's Child had any success at this time?
they
Or were
had,
they still trying to make it?
No, at the time, yeah, No was out. Bills, Bugaboo, and Say My Name was just getting fresh on the radio. And that was the song that kind of crossed Destiny's Child over into the more pop arena, was Say My Name. And so Destiny's Child was already established and rocking when I got in the group.
What was that like for you? Like, to be, so this is a band you've heard of. It's not like, you know, group number 875 of musicians trying to make it. They've already got airplay. Beyonce's getting known.
Yeah.
You're sitting down having a conversation, and you had, you know, your mom's telling you it's a pipe dream. What did that feel like, Michelle?
Sometimes you just got to be like, you know what? You got to show people better than you tell them. She doesn't say that anymore.
I'll bet she doesn't say that anymore.
You know what I mean?
But
now,
what was that like for you? Like sitting down, being courted? Because I think you're dealing with a lot of public leaders here, and I'm sure in their mind they've thought about, oh, what happens if so-and-so taps me on the shoulder? Like,
I was like, y'all want me? There's so many other better dancers. There's so many other better singers. I'm from Rockford, Illinois. Like, it's not even Chicago. It's Rockford. You know, and not that anything is bad with Rockford. I'm just saying that
I have friends there. They're good people.
There are people, you might go to Chicago first before you scout talent in a smaller city. So I'm just like, not even thinking anything's going to come of it. We had a meeting. We sat around and kind of harmonized with each other to see how I kind of gel with the girls musically. And I remember still kind of battling college. 'Cause do I go to college or do I join this group? And so I was at a crossroad when I got the phone call that, hey, we need you in LA to film the video for Say My Name. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to be shadowing the county coroner. Because my major was criminal justice in college.
Oh, so you're in college at this point.
I actually was not in college. I was going to go back like the following semester. But my uncle, who is a physician, still knew of my interest. And he arranged for me to shadow the county coroner to see if forensics and all that stuff was what I wanted to go into. Because he was like, you know, you got to see dead bodies. And you got to do this and that. So I was like, okay. He hooked me up to shadow the county coroner. But I couldn't shadow the county coroner because I think the day of or something, timing wise, I had to get on a plane to LA to film Say My Name. So I'm at a crossroads like, what do I film Say My Name video? Or do I go shadow the county coroner?
That's
so I chose to go to LA.
That is a very rare career choice and makes a great headline. County coroner or Beyonce? Like, take your pick. Like, which one are you going to do? I think you probably chose well. No offense to the county.
Thank you.
Coroner.
But by the way, there is Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland and myself make up Destiny's Child. Kelly Rowland is a founding member, so I don't want us to continue just name dropping Beyonce's name without.
That's very fair.
Without respecting the amazing Kelly Rowland.
How many years were you on the road with Kelly and Beyoncé?
About 6 years.
Yeah, so about 6 years. So there you are. What was that like? You're catapulted out of church choir, a dancer for Monica, thinking about going back into college, not sure whether this is going to work or not. All of a sudden you're on the road. You guys break through, become huge, right? Huge. And everybody kind of does know Destiny's Child, including me. And that's not my genre of music, right? Like I knew exactly who Destiny's Child was, et cetera, et cetera. What was your experience of road and, fame, growing fame, as Destiny's Child took off?
My experience was because it was already an established group, I just kind of walked in the door like, okay, well, what do I need to do? What's my part? What's my role? Kind of file in, go to rehearsals, get on a plane here, sit in the makeup and hair chair, go to this fitting for this award show. It was a whirlwind. It was almost a blur. And so it was like there were moments where I had to intentionally slow down and take everything in because, things were a massive blur because of how fast things were moving. And I don't know if it's like you dream of success, but like the type of success that maybe you only dreamed of that you actually attain is a different story. Like,
how's it different?
I dreamed of a 6-figure job.
Right.
And if I was going to be Googleable, it was because I was going to be this amazing forensic psychologist or this amazing prosecuting attorney, and you'd know me by court cases. Other than that, I wouldn't have dreamed of, if I still was in that field, the highest you could go is maybe them calling you for some high profile case to do a forensic analysis. Like,
sure.
I don't know that field, the highest you can go, or you're some type of amazing professor at a prestigious university. I don't know. I just was like, I'm going to kill it in forensics or a prosecuting attorney. That's all I know. But versus, like I'm even here on vacation and they're asking me, well, the people that stay here are past royalty, princes and kings and this and that. And we'd love for you to plant a tree. They all plant trees. And I'm like, y'all want me? Me? And it's just things that I don't even think of or dream of. Sting, by the way, was my imaginary husband.
Okay. So you're married to Sting.
And he's presenting us with a Billboard award. I'm like, things that you don't, I don't know. I was going to use success as an escape, and I still sometimes am in awe of what has taken place in my life,
What was an escape from in your mind? What were you escaping from?
Well, it was things like, well, I'll be able to provide for myself. I won't, because my mother was kind of like the breadwinner. And I was like, I won't have to ever worry about being in need of anything but scared to ask because mom's already doing so much. Escape from a anxiety-ridden home. It was, I'm like, if I just leave home and be successful, I'll be okay. And sometimes
but you never dreamed of this success.
And that's the thing. A lot of people have used pain in their childhood to propel them into like greatness. Some kids today in 2021 are saying, the minute I get out this house, I'm gone. I'm never going to do that. It's like a motivator to make something of yourself.
I know a lot of leaders who have that story. Like 16, 17, 18, sometimes as young as 15. It's like, yep, I'm out of here. That's not my story. I kept going back, not living at home, but like for the summers and that kind of thing. But I'm beginning to really understand that. Because you have a lot of leaders listening who certainly are not part of Destiny's Child. They haven't got 40,000 people in front of them.
Yeah, but
They're
guess
not
what?
at
You might have 40,000 people under your leadership, in your church fellowship or in your financial institution worldwide. So don't think because it's not it's not 40,000 people maybe screaming your name on one given night, but a lot of leaders have a lot of people that they're responsible for or seemingly responsible for.
No, you're 100% right. And that's one of the reasons I was so interested in having you on, is because there is a public life. There's a public life when you're in the C-suite, when you're a lead pastor, when you have some kind of public profile. And even if it's 40 or 400, people look to you. What was being part of Destiny's Child? What was the impact initially on your mental health? Because that's what we really want to drill down on today.
Initially on my mental health, it was okay because I had been dealing with depression since the 7th grade. And remember, like I said, I was using, it was an escape initially.
Yeah.
So I wasn't thinking.
It felt good.
Yeah, it felt good. I was like, oh my gosh, I could pay my student loans off in writing one check. I said, please, U.S. government, please take this check. I was excited about stuff like that. Like, this is what it feels like just to pay your bills on time. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest. I'm able to pay Sally Mae or whoever it was. So I was, once again, because it was an escape, I was okay until maybe our second major world tour or something. And I was explaining to someone in management when I finally was getting some language, because in the 7th grade, I was dealing with depression. I just didn't have language for it. I just thought it was growing pains. I just thought maybe I'm hormonal. And then I was thinking things like, is this what being a teenager is? I want to go back in the womb if this is what being a teenager is. So fast forward to, in my 20s in Destiny's Child, I remember saying, hey, I think I'm depressed. And a man said to me in management, just said, hey, no, you guys are doing so good. Y'all have a record deal. Y'all have Barbie dolls. Y'all are about to go on tour. And so once he said that to me, I was like, oh, maybe, you're right. We do have those things. Maybe I'm just fatigued and homesick. So I just kept it moving. Never discussed it again. Never processed it again, I don't even think.
What did depression feel like for you in the 7th grade, Michelle?
Just wanting to be alone in my room, fatigued. I was sleeping, oh my gosh, all the time. Isolation. Somehow my grades were dropping. I think it was because of the anxiety portion of it. So I was diagnosed in my 30s with depression, anxiety, and some PTSD, which apparently is like a combination of anxiety and depression. So I was experiencing that in the 7th grade.
How did it feel by the time of that second tour when you talked to your manager? What was different? Or was it exactly the same? You were tired, you wanted to be alone?
Yeah, because I'm like, you're traveling to all these beautiful countries and you want to stay in your room. Y'all have security. You can, if you want to go to the Eiffel Tower, you go. They'll shut it down for you, maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
It's they won't, not the whole thing, but maybe for a few minutes, or you can get to the front of the line. So it's not that I wasn't worried like, well, people are going to bother us. No, they'll make it okay for us to go. But it's like, I didn't want to go. And it's still like that to this day. You almost have to.
Really?
And it's not because of depression. It's because I think it shaped me into just being chill and relaxed. Like, I don't want to go. I'll go hang gliding though, or zip lining. But I don't want to go do anything else.
Yeah.
I'm the one that'll babysit everybody's kids while they go paddle boarding or something.
Oh, that makes you a great friend.
See?
I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to be your friend if that's
Now,
the case.
amusement parks,
Michelle,
though,
yeah.
I'll ride every roller coaster. Amusement parks.
Okay. You sound like you love thrills.
I
You
think
mentioned
that's what
hang
it is.
gliding. All
Oh
right,
my gosh.
roller
Yeah.
coasters.
I think I'll do stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So you're touching on something that I think is really interesting. And I've been there in a season myself. I don't have chronic depression, but I went through a period of burnout in 2006 that you just, when you've been there, you never forget it, right? There is a disconnect often between our public life and how we feel privately. So like you're right, you go to the Eiffel Tower and potentially they'll shut it down so you can go see it, right? So life theoretically, air quotes, it couldn't be better. I mean, like on the outside, you're successful. You got money in the bank, you got fame, you got recognition, you got people who want to be with you. It is the dream that just doesn't come true. And a lot of leaders have that, right? So you look at the P&L or you look at the attendance graphs and like things are off the charts and things are great, but on the inside, it's not great. Do you want to talk about that split between the outward success and what you were feeling inside? Like any thoughts on how you process that now looking back on it? Because it's weird. If you haven't experienced it, right? It's just weird. Yeah. Talk about that.
Had I had the tools that I have now, like, hey, this is what it is. And I didn't get a diagnosis till I was in my 30s. And I was going to therapy, but I was only going to therapy when something triggered me or was wrong. Versus now, I go to process transition, process a thought or an emotion. But I think for me, I wish I had understood what unmet emotional needs were. Knowing that children have needs that need to be met. I wish I would have known about emotional needs that a child must have. And if that child does not get needs met, certain symptoms show up in adulthood. So if you're wondering why at 35 you're responding like a child, go back to that certain point in your childhood. Well, if I'm 35 but I'm responding like a 12-year-old, what happened between the ages of 7 and 12 that you didn't move past emotionally? By the way, this book, have you heard of this book? It's Emotionally Healthy Spirituality.
Oh, Pete Scazzaro. Yeah, I know Pete well. Isn't that an incredible book?
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
How we can be so even biblically astute and mature, or just take out the church part. We can be so amazing in our craft, in our careers, athleticism, but emotionally immature. We don't know how to respond.
Can you, without going into stories you don't want to tell, can you give us an example of like an unmet emotional need from your childhood that surfaced in your adult years as you feel comfortable, Michelle?
So some of the needs like affection. A lot of kids can probably say they didn't grow up in an overly affectionate home, whether you're black or white. Certain parents out of a certain generation just wasn't affectionate. But what happens is without affection, you grow up feeling like you don't need it until you get in a relationship with someone. And you're like, no, I need to know that you like me. Put your hand on my knee. Put your hand around my shoulders when we're going to the cafe or something, right? So it wasn't until relationships with men that I was like, oh, this was a need of mine. Affirmation. I thought I could do it all by myself. But even at the age of 41, I find myself desiring, did my parents see me? Are they proud of me? If your parents are still alive, you probably want that I'm proud of you from them. And if they're not alive and you're in a relationship with your spouse, you want the affirmation from them. But what I'm learning is you can't even put that expectation or demand on other humans anymore. So how do I get those needs met? And it's allowing God to just me. Now, prayerfully, you are in a relationship where stuff is reciprocated. Okay. I'm not saying that your
Right.
spouse should not affirm you. I think that's one of my love languages. To affirm me. Because I think people think when you're successful, you don't need the affirmation. No, I need the affirmation to keep going. Respect is an emotional need. People think that you're a child. You live in my house. I don't have to respect you. So you say things to your children that are borderline traumatic. You know,
Yeah.
security is a need. When you're fighting all the time, that child is living in a state of anxiety because they don't know, is this the fight that's going to send somebody to the hospital or to the morgue?
That's a
Okay,
really
yes, I
good
have
point.
a roof over my head. I have physical security. The rain's not going to come in, but emotional security, no. Because sometimes I think we come from an era of you got clothes on your back, shoes on your feet, and a roof over your head. What more do you need? Oh, you need support.
So, yeah.
Now, so as I go to therapy, I have grace for every parent, not just my own, grace and compassion, because I just heard someone tell me yesterday, man, there's no manual. I hope we're doing there's no manual for parenthood. But now that I know what I know now, like they're like, a child needs like 10 hugs a day.
Wow.
I don't know how. Can you imagine? When your child gets a certain age, they don't want you hugging them. But it's something about them feeling loved and feeling like they can do anything when you love that child and really are trying to fill those emotional needs so that when they get older, they're not picking careers or even relationships that fill those needs.
So Pete and I have had the guy who wrote Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. He and I've had several conversations. I've read his books. I'm such a fan of what Pete is doing. But one of the things that happens to those of us in public leadership is, we'll often look to the success of our organization. It's growing. There's money in the bank. In your case, there's fans. I mean, I'm sure you got letters and emails and eventually social media messages every single day, just telling you that you're the greatest thing and could I please meet you? In what way did that kind of recognition, again, winning Grammys, blah, 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 go down the list, fill that hole? And in which ways did it not?
Maybe temporarily for a few minutes, and then you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Because we didn't sit down long enough to appreciate. I don't think I was even home when my Grammy was delivered.
Really?
No.
Wow.
So you're just
it's
like,
just
okay,
there
what's
in
next?
the mail when you get back.
Right. Like, this is amazing. You unbox it and you either put it on your shelf or put it in storage somewhere. Because when you're constantly traveling, you're like, what's next? What's next? We got to rehearse for this. We don't have time to celebrate because we got to be at the ESPYs. We got to be in London. You don't have time. You don't have time. So I would tell anybody in any career path that you have, celebrate the wins, process losses as well. So Janet Jackson told us, we were in Holland, and she said, really savor these moments. And it was after that.
Tell me more about that. What was the context for that?
I think it was an award. It's probably comparable to like the MTV Awards, but I think in Holland it's called the TMF Awards.
Okay.
And we got a chance to be in Janet Jackson's dressing room, and she was just schooling us, and she was just in her soft voice, make sure you enjoy, make sure you take it all in, make sure you have time to really, because she was telling us it goes by so fast. And she was so right. That's why I told you it was like a blur. It's like a whirlwind. It's like a tornado comes in and does all that damage in 3 seconds. It's quick. It's fast.
Did you think at the height it would last forever? Like, did you think, oh, this is going to be like my whole life? Because we're going to get up to talking about hitting the wall and sort of life as it is now. But like, when you're in that moment, a lot of leaders struggle with separating their identity from their role or their performance, right? You're only as good as your last record. You're only good as your last single. You're only as good as whatever. Did you think that was going to last forever? Like, was it hard to disentangle yourself from Destiny's Child?
Groups like Spice Girls and Destiny's Child, if we wanted to, we could still be cracking right now.
Okay.
Because you
Let's
remember,
talk about that.
Your fans grow with you. Like to this day, people are still asking, when are y'all touring again? When are you doing an album? It's been 15 years since our last commercial album, and people are still asking. If we went out on the road right now, it could be as massive as it was in the early 2000s.
Good point.
That is a blessing. That's almost unheard of.
It is. I mean, the Rolling Stones are still selling out concerts, right?
On.
Those guys are in their 70s.
Come on.
Yeah.
If NSYNC came back together, it would be pandemonium. Yeah.
So I have to ask on behalf of your fans, what is the answer to that question? Are you guys going to get back together?
Like I said, if we wanted to. But I don't think there's a want to. You know?
Yeah.
You know, we are...
Fair enough.
We are excited. We vacation together. We, I think at the end of the day, musically, that's fine and dandy. But to me, I enjoy our relationship, outside of music.
Oh, that's great. So you're still friends with Kelly and with Beyonce?
Absolutely.
Like you guys still talk all the time?
Yes.
Because you always wonder how that goes, right? Did you see the Friends reunion earlier in 2021?
I did.
And those guys had never been in a room together, all six of them, except maybe once.
Oh, see, that's weird.
That's
crazy.
Yeah. Because you always wonder how that's gonna go, right? Like, does a band break up? Like the Beatles were not friends after the Beatles broke up. So what factored in your decision not to continue as Destiny's Child? And then second part of that question, why are you still friends?
I think original members of Destiny's Child have been doing it since they were like 9 and 10 years old. And so then you kind of like, okay, we want to do other things. And, as far as why we're still friends now, because we enjoy each other. We enjoyed singing together. We enjoyed just regular company and downtime. I think also the foundation of respect never left. The respect. When you respect each other, when I respect you, you respect me, you'll have access. You get anything you need from me.
That's simple and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you hit a wall, and that's about, your new book, Checking In, sort of tells your story about getting real about depression.
Yes, sir.
You went through a very, very dark time where you actually had a plan, I believe, to end your life.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to talk about how you hit that wall, Michelle?
Yeah.
Because so many leaders have been there, especially in the last year and a half, 2 years. It's just been brutal. It's been brutal.
Feeling so hopeless, feeling even shame for even having the thoughts, feeling like it's going to be best if I just leave here. And I was literally having conversations with God, like, God, I've lived a great life. You've allowed me to live a great life. What more am I going to do here? And so that's what made me even so comfortable with thoughts of suicide, because I'm thinking, I've lived a great life. What more am I going to do? And it's like, there is still work yet to be done. And I think through this book and the interviews that I do, it's like my purpose is cemented daily. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is the path that you're on. This is your assignment right now. And so when I wake up in the morning, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm so passionate. I'm sitting here with you on vacation because this is what I love to do. It's helping people, inspiring, empowering, telling people like, hey, this is what happened to me. I want to give you language for what you might be feeling, language for how you used to feel, language for how a loved one might be feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
So what led to that? What led to that moment? Was it a slow unraveling that brought you to the point of feeling suicidal?
In 2018, those symptoms of depression started in January of 2018. So by the time my hospitalization was in July, in January, and I was like, well, you can't do this. You're in rehearsals for Coachella. A few months after I got engaged, it was like, you've got too much. Once again, you got all this good stuff going on. Let that be a healing balm for what you're going through. But it got to a place to where I couldn't get out that pit. I had sunk so deep. So I should have told somebody. One of the 3 pillars of my book is checking in with others, checking in with myself, checking in with God. I wasn't checking in with myself enough to be like, hey, you are struggling. I wasn't checking in with others to trust others enough to tell them as well. And by that time, I didn't check in with God because I was like, he's ashamed of me. You know, all of a sudden now you want to come to me for help, you know, and God doesn't have those thoughts towards us.
So you experienced depression when you were in the 7th grade. You had it in the 2nd year on the road with Destiny's Child.
Oh, I had an episode in college as well.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Yeah. How it leads up.
I almost slept through a whole semester. And doctors had to assess me and they thought it was low iron.
Oh, okay.
They thought it was low iron. They was like, she's sleeping all the time. They did blood work and it did show a deficiency. So it was doctors' notes that kept me in school. Like, so I didn't flunk out.
And then did it show up after that 2nd year on the road? Or did it just kind of surprise you in 2017, 2018?
It showed up after Destiny's Child ended. But once again, depression can be situational. When you're experiencing a loss of any magnitude and you don't know how to process or handle it, by the way, sadness is a natural human response to having to transition from what you once knew. So it's understandable to be sad. But I don't know if I would call that. Yeah, I guess that was some depression. And then maybe again in like 2012. So from 2005 and then again in like 2012, the real severe version of it.
Yeah, so it's episodic, which is the experience of a lot of leaders. You know, I just Googled this. It's one of my favorite John Mayer songs. It's something's missing. He says, when autumn comes, it doesn't ask. It just walks in where it left you last. You never know when it starts. Yeah. Until there's fog around the glass inside your summer heart. That's such a great lyric. That got me through
Carey,
my period of depression. Isn't that a great? He's a brilliant lyricist, John Mayer. And, you know, I found that at the times where it has impacted me. You think you're doing great. And then it's like you got hit from behind or you got hit from the side, right? And you're like, where did that come from? Mm-hmm. So, Michelle, 2018 was the worst year, I would take it, of your life.
Yeah.
Walk listeners through what that was like, how you got through it, and what they can do if they find themselves in a similar season.
I think for me, you know, in the first chapters of my book, it's like you're literally swimming in a sea of darkness with nothing to hold on to. You're out there by yourself. Are you going to get back to shore, or are you just going to literally surrender to the darkness and literally let it take you away? And so I'll say that. And then having to get on the phone and tell my therapist, hey, I need some serious help. This is beyond counseling. I need help. So we got on the phone and looked at some treatment facilities, and I checked myself in.
Hmm.
So that was...
What made you reach out for help?
You said what?
What made you reach out for help?
Because I was too comfortable with the thoughts of suicide. I was like, so me calling for help let me know that that's not how I wanted it to end. But I was sure comfortable thinking it, planning my funeral. Like, I want white orchids. By the way, 80 years from now, I still want white orchids. Okay.
But 80 years from now.
80 years from now, I'll be 120. So,
okay, that's a good age.
Yeah,
I think you're fine to go then, Michelle. I think you're...
But
getting close.
122, you definitely... Listen, when someone is like 98 that's passed away, what do people say? Oh, they lived such a great life.
If you make it to 122, you'll make the headlines. That'll be great.
Like, come on.
Or we'll have... Yeah. So that's... People have thought about that. Like in my suicidal period, I thought about how I would do it, which was really bizarre. I look back on that now and I'm like, was that even me? It was definitely me. But what were your thoughts full of in that suicidal season? What
like you said,
you got orchids at your funeral.
Who would show up to the funeral? And some people say that suicide is a selfish act. But I think leaving behind instructions after you've died by suicide I can imagine that being hurtful to people that have to say, well, this is what she wants. I try to process that. It's different when you've died. Like my father passed away in December. I was able to help plan his funeral with so much pride, so much actual joy because he was ill for so long. So that's different.
Totally different.
Versus how I wanted to leave here and then tell you, make sure I got white orchids. I would be mad at my brother. And I would be so mad at him in the casket, looking at him in the casket. Like, really? And you wanted us to get you roses? What? Oh, I'd be so mad. The reason why I'd be mad is because I would have wanted... There are people who have died by suicide, and you're like, I just wanted to have a bullhorn to just say, hold on, please. No, don't. But at the same time, I know the mindset. Of a person in that state. You're obviously not thinking about holding on.
How did you move through that, Michelle? How'd you move through that?
It was faith. It literally was the only thing I had to stand on. Was faith, and I think God making that decision because, prior to that, there was an attempt, and God was like, no. For me, and we know that there are others who have been successful,
Looking back on that, what would you tell yourself now?
Hold on. Hope. There is hope. It sounds so like, oh my gosh, it's those two words. I'll never forget when somebody's like, Michelle, Jesus really loves you. And I was like, whatever. Like, no, like he really does. Like I would tell somebody, it really does get better. It takes a process. It takes some work. Because some of us you're choosing life daily. You're choosing happiness daily versus other responses. Do I choose to get up out the bed or just lay there depressed?
What does life feel like today for you? Because I would tell myself a similar thing. It gets so much better. It gets so much better. But I wouldn't have believed it.
Back like, okay, Lord, I understand. You take people through things. Purpose is birthed out of pain, or pain can propel you into purpose. You know, all those churchy isms that we say to make us feel better about our past.
We do.
Okay. Now, there is some truth to those statements. But I look back like, are you serious? God was always with you. Always with you. Always with you. Even through your moments of pity parties, moments of just pure despair, you know, all your lamenting and stuff. And God was just like, I got you. So right now I'm in a state of joy, just gratitude on a million, you know, for being able to tell the story and to hopefully be that hand that can muscle somebody else through what they're going through.
Are there any rhythms, patterns, or habits that have helped you stay healthy over the last few years?
Well, definitely those 3 pillars. Checking in with myself, checking in with others, checking in with God. A minimum, I'm checking in with myself at least 3 times a day. When I wake up in the morning.
What does that look like?
When I wake up in the morning, you know, you're okay, you're good. Prayer. My praise and worship music, checking in with others, possibly. I mean, I live alone right now, but you know, but checking in with God. I don't play about those 3 pillars in my day. I wake up in the morning, I make my cup of coffee. I first wake up, I make my bed. Because when you make up your bed, you're not going to get back in it. It's too pretty. I like my 80 pillows. So I get up, I make my coffee, I put my favorite song on in the morning. It's like this 15-minute gospel blaring praise and worship song. It's like amazing. And if my neighbors hate it, you gonna get some Jesus every morning. So I do it every morning. I have to. Even while I'm away, I keep my routine. My making up my bed, my coffee in the morning, my devotion. And that's how I choose to start my day. It is a routine. It is habit now. It's kind of like I do need to kind of find another song to play in the morning, but I love it.
Hey, if it's working for you, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to mess with that.
You know, because there was a time where I couldn't get out the bed for weeks at a time. So I remember using that process of, okay, what if you get out the bed, go brush your teeth, even if you have to get back in the bed? Okay, so get up in the morning, brush your teeth, take a few more steps. There's the shower. You might want to take a shower. Even if you have to get back in the bed. At least you get back in the bed smelling like Irish Spring. Because depression makes you stink. Okay? Depression will make you stink. Because you don't want to wash up. You don't want to do anything. So then it was like from there to, okay, I can get up now, brush my teeth, shower. Okay, let me go make some oatmeal. Let me go make some coffee. Stay in the living room. Do not go back in that bedroom. That's why I make my bed every morning. Even though I'm not a morning person, I'd rather be in the bed all day doing absolutely nothing. Even not depressed. Like that's just what I like to, that's what I do. I like to rest. But so I found I give people those practical steps, like when you wake up in the morning, don't think about what you got to do at 8 p.m. What can you do right now? And stick to, people say, just take it a day at a time. No, some people can only take it a second at a time, a minute at a time. So I just encourage people to take those baby steps, and before you know it, you're going throughout your day being productive.
Oh, you know, that's so interesting because that sounds fundamental or too basic, but I've talked to psychiatrists and medical doctors who are friends, and I've asked them, what is the prescription for someone who is like clinically depressed and can't get out of bed? And they would say exactly what you said. Then you get up and you brush your teeth. And even if you can't brush your teeth, just hold the toothbrush. And then, it's okay to, and the next day you brush your teeth. And the next day You get in the shower for 30 seconds
Yeah.
and the next day, like exactly what you said, which is super encouraging. And I found that even in my own season, and I wasn't bedridden by any stretch,
you know who
but it's
gave
like,
me that?
keep showing
It's so
up.
funny that
No,
you talk
who?
about other psychiatrists. My uncle, who was a
Yeah.
physician, told me that. He said, "Can you just get up
Really?
and eat some oatmeal at least? Because I don't need to miss a meal." Now, I
Yeah.
lose weight
Yeah.
really quickly, and I don't mean that from a vain cosmetic. It's just right now, that's how I'm made up right now. So
That's your metabolism.
my
Yep.
metabolism,
My
literally.
wife's the same way.
Yeah. So he said, at least just try to get some oatmeal in you. And if you got to get back in the bed. And I was glad he gave me permission to get back in the bed. Because some people make you feel like, just take on the world. No, I couldn't. So I used that instruction he gave me. And like you said, I built on it when I could.
And any final word, Michelle, for leaders who face a version of the same pressures you do? They're in public every day. Like, what would you tell yourself 20 years ago? What would you tell
20 years
yourself?
ago, boundaries and relationships that are kind of reciprocal. Not that you're performing, not that you're like, well, if I give you this because you're going to give me that. It's just some people can't handle relationships that aren't balanced until you get to a place where you can read a person and say, okay, that's just who they are, and make adjustments.
Okay.
Because leaders,
I'd like to spend a couple minutes.
I think leaders also don't have a lot of friends. So you make friends with people that you're supposed to be leading, or they're just supposed to serve the ministry, but you trying to hang out with them. And then when something happens and they leave the ministry to maybe because they're moving, you're distraught.
Yep. Well, and you would have had that. Like, everybody either wants something from you or they want to be with you, or you're like, do they really like me because I'm Michelle? Or do they like me because I'm famous or Destiny's Child or because I'm friends with, how do you navigate that? That is I'm so glad you went there.
Somehow I can sniff that a mile away. I can sniff it.
Really?
How
do you do that? How do you sniff it?
I don't know. I just can't. Especially, are you asking too many questions about what I do or the people around me? What is it like? You're not interested in me. You're not interested that I just like French vanilla creamer in my coffee in the morning. That has nothing to do with my life, my friends that I'm associated with. You really are in tune to me. And God has brought some people in my life who they rock with me. I'm able to be friends with the person at Dunkin' Donuts and the greatest entertainer of our time right now. I don't care who you are, what you have, because you have a soul who needs the love of Christ. At the end of the day, you strip all that away from people. We're all souls at the end of the day. But I can tell so I don't allow that in my space. I've learned to have boundaries. What's the book by Dr. Henry Cloud?
John Townsend. Yeah,
Safe
Boundaries.
People. Now, that book hit me like a ton of bricks because I have to be a safe person too. It's not just it's not just make sure you have safe people. No, it's make sure you're a safe person too. And that you're not
How do you
defiling.
stay grounded like that?
How do I stay grounded?
Yeah. Like, there are sometimes artists, celebrities, leaders who get intoxicated with their own success. It sounds like you haven't.
No, the type of friends that I choose to have. I think my family all those years and living, I didn't move from the Midwest until 2017. I still lived. Then I moved about 30 minutes outside of my hometown in this small village. And it's just that sensibility, When I'm home, I still have to go pick up nieces and nephews from daycare. I still have to go get cornbread mix if my mama ran out of cornbread mix and she wanted cornbread. I'm still close with my family. My mother had 8 brothers and sisters. I'm still close with every one of them. So I think to me that helps, of staying, if you can, because some family members change, when you get successful. Some people, not that you change, they change. So you almost find yourself having to have boundaries with even blood, family, But for the most part, I have an outstanding family. Not
You sound
perfect.
like the kind of friend most people are looking for.
Yeah. You say what?
You sound like the kind of friend most people are looking for.
Wow.
Yeah.
I pray.
That's
I
wonderful,
pray
Michelle.
so. Yeah. And there's someone that I'm friends with now. We just kind of became friends within the past year and a half, and they're very successful in what they do. And they're like, wait a minute, what's the catch? What are you going to ask me for? And I'm like, the only thing I'm going to ask you is how you're doing. Some people literally cannot believe that you actually like them for who they are, and you're just trying to get to know what makes them tick and what makes them so special and unique. And some people really do like you for who you are. There are those out there that really, really do. And it's trusting that they do, and just trusting that God still can answer your prayer by saying, Lord, I just need people that I can literally take my hair down with. Even men that are bald. Just somebody you can take your hair off. Just, you know what I mean? Just, I get it. I get it. I really do.
Well, Michelle, this has been a joy. Your book is called Checking In, How to Get Real About Depression. How Getting Real About Depression Saved My Life. Let me get that right, and can save yours.
Correct.
Are you on social these days? Where can people find you?
Oh, cool. I'm on Instagram at Michelle Williams. Facebook.com, Michelle Williams. Twitter is Real Michelle W. And I do have a newsletter called Checking In with Michelle. So it's checkinginwithmichelle.com.
Awesome. Michelle, this has been a joy, a delight. Thanks for taking time from your vacation to be with our leaders
No worries,
today.
Carey. I
really
told you this is what I
appreciate it.
love to do. This part of my life, I'm here for it. So I'm excited. So thank you for talking with me today and having me share on your platform.
It's a joy. Thanks,
yes,
Michelle.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Carey.
Well, I hope today's episode was helpful to you. You can always get more by subscribing to my channel. I also have a lot more content over at CareyNieuwhof.com for leaders in business and leaders in churches. And you can get transcripts of this episode there and so much more, plus some other stuff I do for leaders. So head on over there to discover more at CareyNieuwhof.com. And in the meantime, I really hope our time together today has helped you lead like never before.